This is Josh. I am writing to you from the P right now, and to be honest, P stands for pissed, or if I am being fair and balanced, perplexed. In February, I was emailed a gift card by my brother for my birthday. My brother isn't speaking to me at the moment, and so I thought this gift card to the Jacob Burns Film Center was an olive branch, and I emailed him back to thank him and let him know how kind I thought the gesture was. Still, it didn't lead to a discussion of our issues, and in fact, our communication seemed to get worse. A couple of weeks later, I received an envelope in the mail with a physical copy of the gift card and a handwritten note from my brother that said, "Let's reconnect." Unfortunately, the mailman or mail person, hey, I know mine is a man, but I'm being fair and balanced, wasn't able to deliver the card on time because the post office couldn't make out the address. It's kind of crazy because my place used to be my brother's place, but I don't blame him for the crap handwriting. Mine sucks too. Anyway, when I texted my brother a photo of the envelope and a note to acknowledge the card, he did not reply. I finally used a portion of the gift card a couple of weeks ago to see the new Spike Lee movie. More on that after I get through this story. And then I decided to use another $5 to see a matinee of The Goonies so I could write about a favorite movie from my childhood for my Substack. Well, when I went to pay for the ticket, I received a message that the card no longer had any money on it. I sent an email to the Jacob Burns Film Center, and it turns out that my brother used the card to see A Complete Unknown with my niece. I hope they enjoyed the film and that my niece is now a Bob Dylan fan. I feel like I'm about to cry writing this, but not quite. Hey, sometimes there is no explaining behavior among siblings. I hope it was just an honest mistake. I don't want to believe my brother would do anything like that. So as I said, I was at least able to see the new Spike Lee movie starring Denzel Washington, and that was also the same day that I ran into my brother here at the P. Everything in life is stitched together somehow, you see. I am still in the midst of writing that review because it has turned into a longer piece. This is because I thought to myself that it would make sense to watch the original Akira Kurosawa film that the Spike Lee film is based on. I got a free trial subscription to HBO Max and figured I would take a few notes, but the movie really drew me in and made me think about so much more that I wanted to say about both films and their messages. What this means for me is a lot more writing, and what it means for you is more time to subscribe to my Substack so that you get the piece first. You also have more time to subscribe to my YouTube to watch the Come With Me to See video first too. I have been documenting this ongoing saga, including the run-in with my brother and my McMuffin purchasing strategies and experiences. Of course, you also have more time to follow the podcast, where I will be voicing the review for you as well. This weekend, I am turning in the revised draft of my book, and I am pretty damn excited about that. My subjects continue to provide more information even when I don't ask for it, and frankly, these people are so interesting I keep finding myself having to incorporate bits of it. There is a lot of fiddly work like chapter notes, photo captions and credits, acknowledgments, and author info that I have to complete, which feels a bit like homework, but it is all in service of making the final product as high quality as possible, so I am pushing forward because what other option is there? None. I have enjoyed working with my editor immensely. He is the perfect combination of creatively hands-off unless he has a strong opinion, while checking in at the right times to keep me on task. I can't wait to get back to writing the Spike Lee Akira Kurosawa review or whatever it is, because I am finding myself more entertained by my own writing than ever before. I am still pretty upset about the gift card issue I explained a few minutes ago. You can probably hear it in my voice. I am really hoping that it was just an innocent mistake and that my brother didn't give me a gift card that he decided to just use for himself. My friend said that would be cruel if he did that, and I just don't want to believe that about my brother, so I am going to try and stay optimistic about it until I know more. I may never know more. Actually, hey, at least this experience gives me material to be creative with, and I'll have something to talk about at therapy next week, too. Funny, but this difficult 2 years with my brother has made me think about the day I spent with my cousin a couple weeks back, the day before my brother confronted me at the P, in fact, even more fondly. Like me, my cousin has siblings, so he was very understanding of what it has been like. Now that you know that my gift card has been depleted, why not make me feel better by buying me a coffee? It's much, much less than a movie ticket. One more reminder that while there is no buy me a movie ticket because my gift card was used by my brother website, there is a buy me a coffee website. Coffee can be cinematic, so why not hook me up? You can find me at buymeacoffee.com/Josh Bloom. This is episode number 46 of the Josh Bloom Records This Show in various states of emotional upheaval. But hey, it makes for good content, and maybe more people should be more in touch with their feelings and how to properly manage them podcast, aka the Josh Bloom Podcast. It is the latest edition of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration, days 215 through 221. I have added an extemporaneous bonus at the end of this week's episode, recorded live at the P, as I observed some over-the-top Trump cult members sitting just a few feet away from me. I added this because my entry on day 221 is about the tragic school shooting that took place in Minneapolis this week. I didn't want the show to end on such a dark note, but now I realize I started the show with 10 minutes of dark notes. All the best intentions, right? This week on the show, on day 215, I respond to a commenter named Justin The Dogfather, who reminds me of the Snoop Doggy Dogg album, The Doggfather. Snoop's recent comments that films with gay characters scare him reminds me of my new friend Justin the Dogfather, so it's all cyclical around here. Justin the Dogfather is the latest commenter to point out that I am not, in fact, ignoring the Trump administration, and we have a little talk about that. Guess who does all of the talking? It's me. No gin or juice involved. On day 216, I'll fill you in on a discussion I had at the P about the 2,000 National Guard troops that have been stationed on the streets of Washington, D.C., and just why they are there. My friend has a theory that I would not have thought of, and that's what having friends is for. I'll reveal this much. There's a reason why this McDonald's mascot didn't survive. On day 217, I contemplate the idea of woke cereals in an attempt to appeal to the leader of the Trump administration's base, who I believe are the marks of a con man. I realize that real American men aren't going to eat a cereal named Fruity Pebbles, even if Fred Flintstone is on the box, but maybe they will eat a cereal named Patriot Grains and Rocks. This cereal does not yet exist, but perhaps there will be a Buy Me a Box of Patriot Grains and Rocks website soon enough. Let's pray. On day 218, I go to the subject that makes all followers of the leader of the Trump administration crazy, and that subject is Kamala Harris. I believe that black and indigenous women are the future of America because a country founded in genocide and built in slavery will never be made whole until the most oppressed members of its society are elevated to positions of power. We have seen this in the 75 million votes received by Kamala, and we will continue to see it. As you can imagine, this post elicited very angry comments from very racist people. On day 219, before we celebrate the completion of 15% of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration, I update you on the many, many nasty comments that I had to delete from the previous day's post, as well as the hilarity that is California Governor Gavin Newsom's trolling of Donald Trump that the followers of the leader of the Trump administration don't seem to understand is mockery. I love dumb people sometimes. I'm not going to lie. Also, yes, 15%, we're getting there. On day 220, I talk about supporters of the leader of the Trump administration who actually make what sound like measured, cogent arguments about his policies and behaviors, just like his detractors make measured, cogent arguments about his policies and behaviors. The point I make is that everyone has an agenda no matter what the agenda is, and so we must be aware of that fact. I tie this into David Bowie's sex life as he proclaimed it in 2002 specifically. Stay tuned to find out why. Finally, before we get to my light-hearted segment live from the P, on day 221 I have to discuss how disgusted I am that we have 8th graders forced to sacrifice themselves for 4th graders in our country's latest school shooting that no elected officials of any political persuasion seem to have the courage to do anything about. I wonder what I would do, but I know that my actions would have nothing to do with politics and would have everything to do with people. Don't forget to go over to the Josh Bloom YouTube channel to watch a compilation of all of this week's daily TikTok posts. A link is in the show notes. Please subscribe while you're there, and you can watch on a giant TV, just like how I watched the Akira Kurosawa film that took me an entire week to finish. But I did it! I can't wait to get this amazing content to you, so please subscribe everywhere. It means a lot to me, and I have been through a lot today, quite frankly. As always, you can also reach all of my social media by visiting superjews.com. That's superjews.com. Thanks as always for listening, and now let's get into 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. Just so you know, I am still writing this at the P. I wrangled a bunch of coupons and was able to buy an entire day's food for less than $10. I am an artist, but today I am not a starving artist. I am never starving, though, let's be real. See you on the other side. Day 215 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I am just trying to help myself. Justin The Dogfather, which reminds me of the 1996 Snoop Doggy Dogg album, The Doggfather, says, I don't think it's working out for you, so basically you're on day 0. This is a variation on the "you're not ignoring the Trump administration" comment that I get so often. I went to Justin's account, and he is a very active user, which I have respect for. I will also praise the consistent color palette of Justin's account, which is in the shade of MAGA red. Now, as I have stated profusely, I have nothing personally against those who support the leader of the Trump administration because I understand human behavior. I understand our inclination to follow a leader who you are willing to give over a portion of your life to. Someone might give over a portion by just giving a vote. Some will give over a portion by making video after video after video, wearing the uniform that the leader has prescribed for the followers to wear in order to help indoctrinate and identify further followers. You might say, Josh, but you're also giving yourself over every day with video after video after video about the leader of the Trump administration. Well, Justin, I have to let you know that things are not always the way they seem.
I have used the leader of the Trump administration like he uses his followers in order to get your attention, which I obviously did. And when I got your attention, I conveyed a message about my beliefs and values, and you listened to it. Now, Justin the Dogfather, maybe you are also conveying a message about your beliefs and values, or you may be conveying a message about the beliefs and values of the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration, which are the beliefs and values of a lifelong con man and convicted criminal manipulating his marks. I'm okay with that. Justin, are you okay with that? Okay. The difference between your message and mine, however, Justin the Dogfather, is that the beliefs and values I am conveying are about the freedom to have beliefs and values, and the message you are conveying attempts to suppress and oppress the beliefs and values of anyone who doesn't agree with you. I'm okay with someone living their life in a way that is not like mine. Whereas when I see you, Justin the Dogfather, I see someone who is saying, I am not okay with you living your life in a way that is not like mine. And in fact, I am going to make many, many, many videos wearing the uniform prescribed to me, which indicates just that. Justin, I have enjoyed our little collaboration. I hope you have a good day. And now I will go back to ignoring the Trump administration. Day 216 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. Why are there 2,000 members of the National Guard who have been authorized to be armed in Washington, D.C.? I brought this up with the conservative friend I chat with at the Panera. He wondered if there was a terrorist plot on the dark web that maybe we don't know about. Now, I brought this up with him because I wanted to get his perspective specifically because I knew he would have one that would be something I didn't think of, and he did. On the left, a prominent theory is the reason the National Guard is there is because the leader of the Trump administration is trying to wall himself in pending some sort of national revolt. This could very well be, but you could come up with anything. You could say that it's because the leader of the Trump administration plans on turning every single building into a McDonald's, and you will find someone out there to say that is exactly right. Frankly, that would probably be cool. Did you know that McDonald's used to have a breakfast mascot named Birdie the Early Bird? I have been enjoying the McMuffin recently. You have to eat it, though, as soon as you get it because it needs to be hot. Because when it's hot, then the English muffin is crispy, the meat is juicy, and the cheese is very melty. I'm talking, you wait 30 seconds and you're screwed. It's the same with their fries. You wait 30 seconds and you're screwed. But anyway, I didn't think of this theory that my friend did, which is that 2,000 members of the National Guard are in D.C. because maybe there's some kind of plot that the government knows about that we don't. Now, I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that it is as reasonable a thing to think as any other. However, on that second theory, that would mean that those very nefarious people who have infiltrated our government are sitting down and actually saying, we are going to try to wall the president in anticipation of a revolt. This means that these people would have to be intelligent, and I think it is very clear that these are not smart people. They're aggressive people, they're angry people, they're morally bankrupt people, but they're not smart people. Do you remember the way Pete Hegseth's kids looked at him on TV? They looked at him like, Dad's a fucking embarrassment. I can't wait to turn 18 and get the fuck out of here and change my name. That was the look on their faces, and I hope they accomplish that. This is a gathering of dum-dums, so me and my conservative friend at the Panera can agree that it's wait and see, and we just gotta keep on living life. Got to. Because you don't know when it's gonna end, so you gotta just keep on living it. We'll find out eventually if the guard is there purely for intimidation, but for now, let's keep on ignoring the Trump administration. Day 217 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm more of a granola type of guy, and I'm just trying to help myself. There is nothing wrong with admitting that you got caught in a con. If you went to the store and bought a product and you brought that product home and it was defective, you wouldn't be embarrassed. You wouldn't feel like, hey, I got conned. I don't want to admit it because I feel stupid. You would just go back to the store and return it. You can do that with the leader of the Trump administration. It's not like you have to admit you were conned, but there's nothing wrong with admitting you were conned because the con man's goal is to make you his mark and then shame you into letting him continue to con you because you don't want to admit you were conned. That's his goal. Stop letting the leader of the Trump administration fulfill his goal on you. You are an independent person who can make your own decisions in life. Blindly following the leader of the Trump administration and therefore the Trump administration is keeping you from fulfilling your own personal destiny. Now, I would go further to say you don't want to follow any gods either. But you do you, because we do have to get through life, and many people choose to get through life with faith. But faith in an earthly man, especially a man like the leader of the Trump administration, is false faith. Someone like the leader of the Trump administration relies on you to bow down to his will as he thwarts the will of others who will not. I don't want that for you. I don't want you going into the store and buying yourself, in the words of the leader of the Trump administration, a big, beautiful box of Fruity Pebbles, for example, which is just by that name, a very woke cereal. So I will change my example to a more manly cereal like Cocoa Puffs, for example. I don't know. That's kind of woke too. Let me think. How about Tough Patriot Grains and Rocks? That's better. I don't want you to go in there and buy your box of Tough Patriot Grains and Rocks and then go home and there's very little rocks in there, and then you're ashamed to bring that box back to the store. So think about that in terms of the leader of the Trump administration. Go ahead and bring that leader of the Trump administration right back to the store from which he came. And that is a store called Stop and Shame. And then from that point on, you can play a different game, which is ignoring the Trump administration. Day 218 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I do not have a Glock. I am just trying to help myself. Black women and Indigenous women are the future of America because Black women and Indigenous women are the most systemically and historically oppressed members of American society based on how America was built and based on how America was founded. This is the history that the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration would like to erase. Only when Black women and Indigenous women have secured the power to run this nation by continuing to be duly elected to do so, will the country that has systemically and historically oppressed them be made whole, and only then will their oppressors either adapt or wither away into nothingness. I have talked about how when I was in my mid-30s and Barack Obama was elected, I was still young enough and naive enough to believe that this marked the end of racism. But as I see nearly 20 years later, that was only the beginning of racists seeking revenge. But luckily, as we have seen, Black and Indigenous women continue to elevate to positions of power, most notably in the candidacy of Kamala Harris, who I have pointed out many times ran a campaign that was only 4 months long, received 75 million votes, and only lost by 1% to a man who didn't even get 50%. I have full confidence that Black women and Indigenous women will run this country in my lifetime, and that the constituents they represent will appreciate their work, appreciate their representation, and appreciate their communication, because Black women and Indigenous women understand systemic and historic oppression and do not have the inflated egos of fragile, old, racist white men who get emotional when criticized. Have you seen how these people are clearly rotting from the inside with anger and hatred? Poor babies. But for now, we must continue to suffer until we learn our lesson and get an education as we continue to ignore the Trump administration. Day 219 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I do know what the word mockery means, and I'm just trying to help myself. Before we get into today's celebration, I want to celebrate the overwhelming amount of negative, angry, and hateful comments that I deleted about yesterday's video, where I specifically referenced Kamala Harris and a country, aka America, founded in G-side and S-slavery. Once again, the trolls of the internet, be they bots, meaning manufactured by a computer, be they bots, meaning indoctrinated by the leader of the Trump administration, or be they bots, meaning agents living in another country hired to leave such comments on behalf of their traitorous leader, once again, the trolls of the internet have proven the point I was making. We are seeing a situation where the fear of Black women and Indigenous women running this country has made itself clear and present, which, to an optimist like me, says that I am on the right track. So thank you. Now, point 2 today, before we celebrate, is about Gavin Newsom's trolling of the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration, and the fact that the average mark of a con, all the way up to the complicit accomplices of the leader of the Trump administration, do not seem to understand what mockery is, or even what the word mockery means. They seem to think that Gavin Newsom is trying to be like Donald Trump and don't realize he is making fun of Donald Trump. And frankly, I hope they continue to think that, because it lets the rest of us know, just like anyone leaving angry, hateful comments about Kamala Harris, it lets us know just who will need to eventually adapt or wither. Lastly, today, on day 219 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration, I want to celebrate with you 15%. That's right, 15%. We are 15% through the final term of the leader of the Trump administration. And based on what I am seeing on his hands, the final term may be coming to an end sooner than expected. On such a day as this, once again, I will remind myself and you that the point of this exercise is to remain mindful, optimistic, and hopeful. We are only given one life, and we do not want to spend it taking in too much bad news, racking up too many negative views, and regretting the choices we choose. Use your time mindfully, optimistically, and hopefully without cluttering your existence with too much information. And the way to do that is to ignore the Trump administration. Day 220 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. Okay? Sometimes I'll hear someone making what sounds like a cogent argument for the leader of the Trump administration. Now, since day 1 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration, I have said it is about taking in less information, less news, less data to occupy our minds. And by regaining that time, we can be more creative and bring better versions of ourselves into the world and into the world of the people we love. When I have suggested taking in less information, I am mostly referring to information that supports the point of view of those of us who believe that the leader of the Trump administration is the most nefarious individual we have known in our lifetimes. But it can go both ways, kind of like David Bowie in 2002. When I mention a cogent commenter, I mean there are some people who are members of the cult who will say regarding the leader of the Trump administration's rollout of the National Guard, for example, he's making the streets safer. What's wrong with that? And they will make a case for this point of view with what sounds like rational, measured arguments. This approach is not dissimilar to how left-wing podcasters, for example, mostly very rich people who are doing just fine, make rational, measured arguments against the leader of the Trump administration. The thing is, they must get on their podcast every day to talk about the leader of the Trump administration as if his policies are something worthy of discussion, just like the cogent commenter who defends the leader of the Trump administration as if his policies are something worthy of discussion. In both cases, they are making these arguments as if the person they are discussing is not motivated by one single focus. If you take it up to the next level, as someone like myself who is very interested in human behavior does, you will see a man with a lifetime of treating people horribly, with a lifetime of taking advantage of the misfortune of others, with a lifetime of breaking social norms. He comes from that. He was raised in that. He is doing exactly as one would expect of someone who was brought up in that environment and never inclined to change. By simply stepping back to understand human behavior, we know that what appears like someone just sending in the National Guard to clean up the streets is not. By simply stepping back to understand human behavior, we know that the motivation is to serve some personal need of Donald Trump, to control others, to hurt others, and to degrade others who do not experience the miserable existence that he does. We will not subject ourselves to this degradation, and so we will ignore the Trump administration. Day 221 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. I want to talk about what happened in Minneapolis this week, and not in terms of what the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration did or didn't do, because it doesn't matter. Those people don't give a shit about anybody except themselves unless it affects them personally, so it's irrelevant to talk about it. I'm also not going to talk about it in terms of gun control. I'm not going to talk about it in terms of Republican versus Democrat. I'm not going to talk about it in regard to the gender of the deceased perpetrator. I want to talk about courage. I want to talk about the fact that we have 8th graders jumping on the backs of 4th graders to protect them from losing their lives. We have 8th graders taking bullets to protect the lives of 4th graders. And I can guarantee that the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration and Democrats and independent elected representatives would not have the courage of 8th graders to jump on top of 4th graders to protect them from bullets. I don't know what I would do in that situation either, but I do know that I wouldn't be thinking about how it makes me woke or not woke. There needs to be a serious reevaluation of what it means to be a person. Not an American, a human being in this world who walks around consuming as much as possible on the backs of others, while 8th graders are jumping on top of the backs of others in order to keep them from being unalived, or as we say in the actual world, killed. It is bullshit, and the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration aren't going to do anything about it. And before you get in that comment section, I don't think Democrats or independents are going to do anything about it either. Maybe Bernie Sanders would give his life to protect some innocent school children, but that's about it. It is up to the people of America and the people of every nation to get a grip and realize that being a human means protecting other humans and ignoring the Trump administration. Currently in the hotbed of conspiracies. The hotbed of conspiracies where I live is here at the P. If you seat yourself next to a group that is in the throes of cult behavior, you will hear things. You will hear things that rock your world. I like to repeat those things with those people sitting mere feet away. And because I think that by doing that, I might project the energy that, hi, there is a sane person near you. Pick up some of this sane vibe. The thing I heard just now is if someone is wearing a mask, I will not do business with them. He described a mask as similar to a chain link fence, trying to keep out mosquitoes. Completely oblivious, obviously, to the fact that the virus is transmitted through droplets, and those droplets are prevented from dropping on your ass by a mask. I noticed something that I think is a code that I want to convey because I just observed it. This particular gentleman, the chain link fence analogy gentleman, says, not says. I already told you what he says. He said a few other things too. He said, you know how you go get your car painted and when the guy's wearing a mask, when he paints the car and then he still has some paint on him? There you go. He is wearing a hat that is MAGA red, but it's not a MAGA hat. It's his like Carpenter's Union or something, but it's MAGA red. So I'm thinking that that is some kind of code to let other MAGA know, because most MAGA they won't wear a MAGA hat. You know why? Because they know they're hated. They know they're hated by the population. That's why they don't wear it. They know that if they were confronted, they would not be able to defend themselves because they are weak. You know how they're weak? Because they're in a cult. Anyway, these gentlemen have now gotten up and walked away. Why? Because they probably heard me making this video and they knew, like, hey, look at that guy there. Obviously a lib. Look at those glasses. But little do they know, if they try me, if you try me, I'm scared of me sometimes because when I can summon that anger, it can be wild. I grew up in an abusive home. I had to defend myself. One of the ways I defended myself when I was a young child and small was to get crazy. I can still do that.
Hey, it's Josh. I'm back. I saw that same dude from the P a little later at a table outside continuing his rhetoric. America, what a world. By the way, if I sound muffled, it's because I am wearing a mask in my kitchen because I may not have access to a booster this winter, so I don't want me or my cat to give me COVID. I'm just kidding. I sound muffled because I am too exhausted to articulate my words. I'm just kidding. I'm fine. So stop being nosy. By the way, I never finished my deep cleaning of my apartment. I still need to do the living room, and now enough time has passed that I need to spruce up the rooms that I already did again. I have entered into some kind of infinite cleaning loop, but my place is way better than it was during the deepest days of writing my book when I was barely sleeping. I am holding myself accountable for housekeeping. Thanks again for listening. Please leave a 5-star rating for the Josh Bloom Podcast in your podcast app and leave a comment saying that you like the show. Don't forget to follow, and as always, I command you to tell a friend about the show. Perhaps we can take a lesson from that crazy red-hatted Trump fiend at the P and use his tactics. You could tell a friend, if you don't subscribe to the Josh Bloom Podcast, I will never do business with you again. I know this sounds kind of aggressive and counterintuitive, but I am confident that you can figure it out on my behalf. If you can, it will be the gift that keeps on giving, unlike the gift card I was gifted on my birthday. How's that for bringing the show full circle? Lastly, visit me everywhere for everything by going to superjews.com. That's superjews.com for links to all of my social media, and visit superjews.substack.com to subscribe to my Substack, which contains all of my long-form writing. Subscriptions are free, or for a small monthly donation, you can support my work. It helps a lot. Thanks again for listening. I will see you next week.